Крейсер противника уничтожен.
Hello and welcome. Today we are in the new Tier 8 Soviet Battlecruiser, the Borodino. Look at that massive bow. It is almost 40% of the ship. It is so long. The ship was given to me by Wargaming. The most striking feature of the Borodino, though, is the fact that she has a radar, a 12-kilometer radar, on a battleship, well, a battlecruiser. The radar lasts for 25 seconds, which is actually quite important because the main guns have a 31-second reload. Even with the special radar upgrade, your radar will last 30 seconds, still not enough to fire twice with your main guns. You can take the consumables enhancement captain skill, but I haven't taken it because that would require me to have a special captain just for this ship, and I decided not to go for that. Which means that I can only fire once per radar on the target that I actually radar. Now the guns in the ship are actually pretty damn good. You have Sovietsky Soyuz guns. They have good pen, they are really quick shells, but you only get 6 of them. However, you do have better dispersion and a better sigma than the Sovietsky Soyuz does, which means that I think in terms of actual damage output, you aren't probably too far behind the Sovietsky Soyuz. So, we have a Tier 8 battleship with a 12-kilometer radar and pretty damn good guns. What's the downside of the ship? And that would be the armor. Remember how I said it's a battlecruiser? A battlecruiser is a ship that has battleship guns, but is more lightly armored than battleships are. And this ship fits the bill exactly. Her firepower is decent, but her citadel is massive, and her bow is actually 25 millimeters. So is her stern. She does have that extended armor plate to the front, but her bow is 25 millimeters. Most of the battleships that she runs into can overmatch her bow and deal significant amounts of penetrating damage. Kinda like I just did to that Queen Elizabeth. She could do exactly the same thing to my bow or stern. It's like playing a cruiser. If battleships start focusing you, you're gonna go down really quickly. And if you show too much broadside to the wrong battleship, you're also going down. I think in a lot of cases in the matches I played during testing, I didn't get punished in situations where I could have been punished because I think people just didn't know about the ship. They didn't know that they could overmatch the bow. But I think once the ship is released, people are going to find that out, and they are going to hit your bow and deal tons and tons of damage. But this ship isn't a cruiser, and one reason why it's not a cruiser and it becomes extremely obvious when you actually play it is the maneuverability. The rudder shift speed is fine. The main thing is it has a giant turning circle. I think it's over 1,000 meters actually in the in-game stats, and we know those aren't exactly accurate. The Borodino also gets 1 fewer heal than other battleships do, so she doesn't have the staying power. Wait, I'm spotted. Our Trenta is getting torped. There has to be a destroyer here, so I guess we should try to radar. Oh, hello Z-23. How are you doing this fine evening? Would you like some shells? And this is the only salvo I'm gonna be able to do during this radar. I mean, look, there's a 5-second difference between my radar duration and my main battery reload. Now, as I mentioned earlier, consumables enhancement does give you enough radar duration that you could theoretically fire twice. However, as you can see, there's a 5-second difference between my guns reloading and the radar duration, right? Even if I take consumables enhancement, I would only have 2 seconds to cover that 5-second difference. It takes almost 2 seconds for the ship to actually render, and I'm not sure if you can do it fast enough, even with consumables enhancement, to fire twice. So maybe it's not even worthwhile. Anyway, it's a Kaga. Seriously, the enemy CV has taken a fair bit of damage. If we could take her out, that would be perfection. It's a standard battle, so CVs can become extremely dangerous in the long term. Come on, come on. Oh, 5 hits from this kind of range, and 4 of them are pens. That's pretty damn good. If the Kaga gets spotted again for whatever reason, we should be able to finish her off. Because she only had 20k HP when I took that shot. I'd like to pull your attention to the minimap. Now I'm doing something that you can't do in other battleships. I can only do this because I have radar, or I'm comfortable doing this because I have radar. I'm going alone, and I know that there's going to be a destroyer somewhere in front of me, or well, to the side that I'm looking at. Oh, hello Kaga. The Orkan is over there, and so is the Z-23. But because I have radar, chances are the destroyers are gonna try to stay away from me, at least to some extent. And I won't be quite as helpless as other battleships would be. TDs can't just keep distance and then eventually torp me. Goodbye, Kaga. And I think this kind of settles the game. Oh, can we take a shot on the Hatsuharo? Oh, an Orkan right in front of me. I didn't expect him to be this close. Okay, this is fine. I have a radar up if this is necessary, although she does have full HP, so it would be nicer if we could take out some of her HP first. I'm gonna keep going diagonally in case the Orkan actually torp me. That allows me to dodge. If you go straight at the torpedoes, then it's kind of down to luck whether you were positioned correctly to avoid the torps or not. But if you go a little diagonally, you can actually decide your fate yourself. The rear secondary turrets are firing, and they actually set a fire on the destroyer. Kind of unbelievable, but here we are. Only 1 shell hit this time. There are the torpedoes. Yeah, look, I am not going diagonally against the torps, and therefore I was unable to avoid them. We are closing in on this Orkan. Oh, our Bayan was taken out that actually had the broadside of the Orkan. Okay. Well, I should still be able to get 2 more salvos on the Orkan. 1 right now, and then if necessary the radar if she somehow gets out of range. Ho ho, 6k damage! Ouch, and a fire too, by the way. I guess our focus is actually gonna be on the Hatsuharo, but I'm gonna go where the Orkan was because I know she already torped. I know I took out her torp tube, and the other thing is that'll put an island between me and the potential place the Hatsuharo could torpedo. So I don't need to worry about trying to dodge Hatsuharo torps. See? Hatsuharo torpedoes. I'm gonna take a blind shot here. Got him! Now the question is, do I radar? If I radar, the Orkan is gonna be spotted. Our Benson should be able to take her out, but if the Benson doesn't, we might be in a little bit of trouble because I would be going around the island here with the Orkan. Okay, never mind. I think that problem will be settled by the Benson in a few seconds. So our focus is now on the Bismarck. And I guess we can enter the cap here. Actually, I didn't know you could enter the cap here and be covered a little bit by the island. That's interesting to know. Oh, Akizuki actually took out the Orkan, not the Benson. That's surprising. But the game's in the bag now. We just need to finish off the Bismarck, the Bayan, and the Gasoline. Wow, they actually have a lot of HP. But I find it extremely unlikely that the enemy is gonna come back. So because I have a 25mm bow, the way I like to sit against enemies, instead of being directly bow on, I try to sit a little bit diagonally so that they're more likely to try to hit my main belt in some way. Because when that happens, obviously they ricochet off, but if they actually hit my bow straight on, they actually get regular penetrating hits. Bismarck should be taken out, and then we'll focus on the Gasoline and then Bayan. But yeah, the radar was really useful here, because radar gave me the confidence to come through the middle. If I had been, I don't know, a Vladivostok or a Lenin, I wouldn't have taken that path, because I would have been afraid that the Orkan and potentially the other destroyer would have kind of made a fool out of me, because I would be just trying to dodge them on pure luck effectively, or instinct. Oh, damn. I was hoping we could actually finish her off this way. So overall, my opinion of the ship is that she isn't actually as strong as I expected her to be. When I found out about the guns and the radar, I thought she was gonna be ridiculously OP. But the armor and the maneuverability, they truly put a damper on things. You have to be so careful in this ship all the time, because her side armor can just get you deleted. Just straight up deleted. I think I actually think the Dutch cruisers are better armored than this thing, and by this I mean straight up thicker armor to protect the Citadel, or at least thicker when you add up all the layers. Ooh, 14k damage, nice. Damn, I really find the guns quite fun to use. One more salvo, and that should be it. Hopefully. Oh, she's firing HE too. Again, she probably doesn't know that she can overmatch my bow with AP. Goodbye. A pretty good game. I've had quite boring games where I basically spent half the match reversing away. That tends to happen in tier 10, because you can't go up against tier 10 ships easily. Still, 123k damage, Confederate, sank 3 ships. I would say it's a pretty decent performance. 1892, 500 more XP than number 2. That's actually a pretty damn good performance. So, let's take a look at the armor that I kept talking about on the ship. By the way, this is the Kronstadt port. I wonder, when did they update it? Is there's an actual battle going on. There are ships firing and stuff, and there's smoke in the distance. And there's anti-air going off and stuff. Pretty cool. Anyway, the Borodino's armor. As I mentioned, it's a 25mm ginormous bow with an icebreaker or extended belt that's 50mm. And there's a 25mm stern as well, and that's actually pretty enormous too. The deck armor and the side plates are actually 50mm, which is pretty good. However, check this out. This is the Citadel belt. Right here. This is the Citadel belt. This thing right here. Let's turn all the other stuff off so you can see. This is the Citadel belt. It sits so incredibly high in the water, and it is completely in the open. It isn't covered by anything. There's no torp belt or anything like that above that. And it's 220mm. Remember the Dutch cruisers I mentioned? The Haarlem has a 200mm Citadel belt with a 27mm torp belt on top of it. So that one's actually thicker than this, and that's a cruiser. A cruiser. This is, well, a battleship class. It's, I guess, a battlecruiser. Yeah, there is a 400mm armor plate here, but it doesn't really do much. Because, well, this is thick enough already to ricochet most shells, and the nose itself is so incredibly massive that it's very unlikely something's really getting there. But I suppose it's nice to have. Citadel has some deck armor and stuff like that, but yeah, this is a really vulnerable Citadel. 220mm only. And a 25mm nose. You hit any of this part, and basically all battleships you can meet, well, almost all, not Scharnhorst, but almost all, can overmatch this and just deal massive amounts of damage. And it's a big ship. I mean, look at this. 1,060 meter turning circle. It's fast, yes, 32.32 knots with the flag, but 1,060 meters. Anyway, time for the captain skills and upgrades. So I use a standard captain build. This is the same captain that I used on my Kremlin, on the Lenin, etc, etc. Emergency Repair Specialist, Grease the Gears, Adrenaline Rush, Emergency Repair Expert, Concealment Expert, Basics of Survivability, and Fire Prevention. Now I mentioned that Consumables Enhancement would actually put your radar at 33 seconds, and maybe this is worthwhile. However, as you recall, because it takes almost 2 seconds for the ship to render, I'm still uncertain whether you can get two salvos off even if you have the skill. And also, honestly, you might really want to consider priority target on the ship, because when ships shoot at you when you don't expect it, it's a real problem. Okay, upgrades, it's what you would expect. Concealment, propulsion mod, because I have basic survivability, the naming systems, the special radar upgrade, although, to be honest, if you don't have the consumables enhancement skill, this isn't really that important, because you only get one shot off regardless. So maybe you could go damage control just as well, and then main arts modification 1. And as you can see, with the special upgrade, radar lasts for 30 seconds. It has a 2-minute cooldown as normal. It's a normal heal, except you have 4 of them. AA defense is actually pretty decent for defending yourself. It has 375 DPS to 4 kilometers. The long range one is pretty bad though. And also the short range is pretty long range for short range AA. The flak is pretty useless though. 2 bubbles means it basically doesn't exist. The guns though, as I said, it's only the 2 at the front. You do have 180mm secondaries at the rear, but they're secondaries, so not the most useful things. And by the way, these are the only secondaries you have. This ship doesn't have any other secondaries. 13.7 kilometer concealment on the ship, and I would say it's a pretty good ship. Now, of course, as I always say, because I haven't actually played against other Borodinos, I don't know how oppressive she feels to play against. But from my experience actually playing the ship, I would say that she's probably not OP. The radar is really strong, yes, but the ship itself is squishy enough that I don't think I'm all that afraid of her. I mean, think about it. An Alaska in many situations would be better off than this thing in terms of survivability. Actually, probably in most situations. So it's a fun ship to play, but I don't think I would take her to ranked. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I would like to thank the patrons on Patreon. Thank you very much for your continued support, and I hope I'll see you guys next time.